my name is Declan McCraith and I'm a wood turner based in Edenderry in County Offaly. Back in the early 90s, I was lucky enough to spend about 3 days with a guy called George Wills down in Ennisdeeg in Kilkenny. And that was a fantastic opportunity, introduction to wood turning. And then later on, I was doing a wood machinist course at night in Bolton Street, in the School of Trades in Bolton Street, doing all kinds of woodwork in and out. You know, it's still kind of coming back to the lathe at every opportunity I got. I use all Irish hardwoods. Almost all our windfalls are from site clearances. At the moment, I'm working my way through lots of ash, because ash has been cleared because of the ash dieback situation. But I'm still coming across elm and yew, and you know, people offer me trees that they're taking them down, you know, from cherry to sycamore, walnut. A lot of trees like the cherry and walnut would be coming from kind of urban areas, and the ash is just usually roadside clearances, you know, for safety reasons because of ash dieback. The native ash, you know, you're going to get such a variety of colours in it with the so-called olive ash, and because they're not really kind of commercially farmed, you know, you've got all kinds of features and twists and turns, and that's really what I find. Like, you really never know till you open up a tree and see what kind of colours going to be inside, you know. And that's try and save that within the vessel, then within the bowl. Well, I think turning the wet timber is kind of meditative. You kind of get into a kind of a meditative state, you know. There's less resistance from the timber. When your chisels are sharp, you know, you can just glide through the work. Even though you could get wringing wet from the moisture coming off the timber, but I've heard it described as a kind of a mechanical mindfulness, that you kind of get into it and you just, you know, it's kind of like muscle memory. It doesn't feel like work, I'll put it to you that way. But I think there's a kind of a challenge as well to, you know, I've heard people say that, you know, when you're especially making vessels, that the outside of the vessel is the vessel. So you're always kind of struggling to have, you know, to achieve this, I won't say perfect shape, but, you know, something that's kind of a little bit elegant, or something that has that little bit of, you know, it just clicks with you when you look at it, that it's right, you know. We'll also kind of work through using some wet timber. Like that's and finishing the bowls wet, and letting the bowl, kind of the vessel, distort, and of course, like everything to do with wood turning it. And I'm sure you've heard the saying before, but like every day is a school day when you're trying to select a piece of wet timber that's going to distort and going to change its shape. Like, you learn something every time you do that. That this is one selection is better than another, and so on. And that you know, the timber helps in being creative, because it's going to do something creative if you select it right in the first place. I think it's very different from a lot of the modern world. You know, a lot of the technology. You know, you're really down to what you're doing yourself with some very basic tools, rather than lots of assisted with technology, you know. I'm not necessarily very worried about it, because I think the process of creativity is so strong, you know. Now, people will use AI possibly as a tool in their creativity, but I think the more, you know, AI seems to, as a creative tool, seems to be that little bit more remote from the human activity. I think the closer, you know, like potters and you know, wood turners and potters and sculptors, and the closer you are to the material it seems to be more fulfilling to have overcome the resistance of the material and achieve something. Whereas I think if with AI, I think that just creates another gap, another distance, you know. Like, if you could just make the bowls with your bare hands, it would be ideal. I think now I don't really have a concern that AI is going to negatively impact craft. I think the push for people to make art and make craft is very, very strong. It's kind of very nearly inbuilt in human nature, right, or human condition. I think more worrying, as I think I've said before with AI, is the impact it's going to have on sort of politics, and for people to, you know, be able to decide what's real and what's not real. That's more worrying than the impact on craft. You know, that could really change the world rather than, you know, change the vessels we're making, you know. The value of craft, I think craft is being valued more in certain markets, in certain circles. You kind of have to find a balance as well, you know. You can't overprice your craft, but you certainly can't compete with Temu and you know, you just can't compete there, and I wouldn't even attempt to do that. Like, it's just impossible to do. But I've seen, you know, people who are really overpricing because now you have to value your time and value your, you know, the knowledge that it's taken years and years to build up, and your craft that's taken years and thousands and thousands of hours. But I think you can't you can't push yourself out of the market in that either, you know. There's a balance somewhere. I'm approached regularly, you know, I won't say constantly, but regularly with parents that have youngsters that they want to introduce them to a craft. And I've had some of them here that will spend a day together and do, you know, make some stuff on the lathe and so on. And they absolutely, there is a kind of a longing there to actually achieve something like that. I think that, you know, given the opportunity, they will put their phone down or put the iPad down. But you have to kind of work at it, and you have to present lots of options to young people early. I think when they get into late teens and it's more difficult. But as children, I think, younger children, I think the primary schools, that's where the craft should really be. You know, at a much younger age, it should be introduced, you know, as some kind of three-dimensional craft, particularly, rather than drawing or painting, you know, something to introduce the whole world of three-dimensional creativity to younger people. I think that would help, you know. They just get so engrossed in the phone and the social media and the technology, you know, just overwhelming. So we need to get in there earlier. It's a very good time now to investigate, you know, getting involved in some sort of a craft, or painting or drawing or ceramics or wood turning. You know, there are loads and loads of opportunities being presented all the time, from, you know, introductory, you know, one-day beginners introductory classes to a whole series of night classes. I think maybe open yourself up to maybe a kind of a tasting lots of different options. You know, sometimes if you just go for one and it doesn't work out, then, you know, don't let that put you off trying something else. You know, I think you have to be open to like most craft, and particularly I know in wood turning, like, you have to have a little bit of resilience, you know. And something goes wrong, you have to be able to bounce back and go again, you know. And that's, like I say, like every time you put something on the lathe, you're going to learn something every time, you know. So I would highly recommend people to have a go at it, even like as an antidote to everything else that's going on in the world, you know.